It's just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
All right, what's up, folks? Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode. Episode what? 143? What? This is crazy. Very exciting. Today's episode, we're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about movies, pulp culture. I mean, anything that comes up. This is very exciting because I love talking with EJ. EJ Nieves is a incredibly talented artist out of Ocala. He's done so much work, not just for the city of Ocala, but surrounding areas, including Orlando and even all the way up to Gainesville, where he did some incredible murals. That's a tongue twister. Incredible murals for the University of Florida. And you could check him out on social media. I'll leave his links, I'll leave his profiles in the description below, where you could just click it and it'll bring you right to his website and his Instagram and all that, so you can see his work. But incredibly talented artist. Love talking to EJ. Everyone, please help me welcome EJ Nieves.
Everything's kind of moving forward and just trying to kind of figure it out,
Yeah.
Growth is good, but the beginning stages of growth and scaling and risk taking are always scary,
Sure.
emotionally, financially. So just kind of trying to keep all my emotions in check, man. That's
I
about
love it,
it.
dude. Well, I mean, bro, not for nothing, but it looks like you're rocking it. You're on the right track. So, just keep your head on a swivel and, keep doing your thing, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
No, dude, thanks for coming on. Sorry I went with so much trouble.
it. No, we're good. Usually when things like this happen, it's because something amazing is on the other side.
Oh,
So,
I love it. Well, I couldn't agree more with, this is going to be an amazing podcast. I don't know what it's going to be about, but it's going to be amazing.
yeah, no, I feel it, man. I feel it.
So a couple things I want to talk to you about. So obviously with your shop and the studio, right? Where's that at for people if they want to go check that out?
That's going to be 1523 Northeast 8th Avenue, Ocala, Florida, 34470.
Love it. And for those watching video, I threw up his EJ's social media handles, so check that out. But dude, the studio's looking great.
Thank
the
you.
artwork you're doing on TikTok, I'm loving that, by the way. What are you seeing from like a content standpoint when you're doing these videos? Because I'm always curious. Obviously what I do is, I'm in the digital marketing space, and obviously things I do on the side with my podcast, my business and stuff is just a bonus. But like for my work, marketing is always, our forefront is digital right now. That's where we're pushing, right? But for you as an artist, I'm always curious about this stuff because I have a lot of buddies that are artists, and it's always interesting to get the perspective of art is not being sold, and we'll get to NFTs in a bit. But art right
Yeah.
now, at least your art, from what I know, you're using the gallery, you're using the studio. How does that translate if there's an up and coming artist, if they need help, or how do you take that content on social media and how do you push them to the gallery? Are you seeing more sales e-commerce wise through your website, through
Yeah.
TikTok? Like, it kind of walk me through the process because I'm always curious about how you think about that.
I'll say this: e-commerce is very important. Really getting a handle and wrapping your arms around the digital side of things, especially now, it's just very important. So I've spent quite a bit of time. It's funny, and for what it is, I'm just gonna put it this way: all drama aside, because I know there's a lot of heat that Kanye's taking right now. So I just actually watched it twice. So I watched it last night, and then I watched it the day it came out. His newest documentary, and I'm just gonna be honest, man. He's encouraging me to just kind of say it how it is, and so
I
I'm
love
just
it.
gonna say it how it is, man. I used to be somebody that was kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna smooth out the edges and practice my speech and all this stuff, but I'm just gonna say it how it is, man. A lot of artists are lacking because they're not really understanding the power of social media. It's powerful, and even something. I'm just gonna be real, as archaic as Facebook, now known as Meta. Um, Facebook on a local level is extremely powerful. And so it's really an artist's responsibility to leverage their online presence to the best of their ability, attack it daily, attack it, as much as possible daily. Everybody's schedule is different. You have things like Hootsuite. I'm sure there's other, I'm old school, so Hootsuite's one of those apps from a long time ago that people use to schedule out their posts. But anybody in business, artists in particular, because we're visual, you should be putting your work out there 2 to 3 times a day in different aspects, whether you're talking about your art, posting pictures of works in progress, the final piece, taking close-up pictures, explaining your art, telling your story over and over and over again. I like to call that the Gary V effect, the Gary V factor.
Yeah.
You tell your story over and over and over again until people are sick and tired of it, because guess what? When people are sick and tired of your story, that means that they know your story. And so if you don't have people in your comments saying, hey, like talk about something different or whatever, then that means you are accomplishing your job. You understood your assignment. You understand what your story is about. So anyway, I would say e-commerce is huge. Build it. It'll take time to build. Mine took about 2 to 3 years of solid attacking it daily. 2 to 3, 4. I mean, at this moment now, I post about 15 times a day. I am
shit.
relentless. I'm relentless. I don't stop. I have at this point with my Instagram of almost 40,000 followers, I get about 100 followers that leave me a week. So you have to be relentless, because for 100 that leave, another 50 jump on board. It's really one of those things where you really just have to be relentless. And I've been relentless now for 10 years. This is my 10-year anniversary as Ness.
Nice.
And so it's one of those things where you have to build a foundation online. You have to, because locally, anywhere you are, from the smallest town all the way to LA to New York, you have to let people know who you are, and you have to get in front of strangers. You got to put your work in front of strangers. What better place to do that than the internet? And
So true.
whether you are paying for ads or whatever, hey, that is a way to do it. You don't necessarily have to do it. I personally do not do that. In the very, very, very beginning, I did a lot of trade outs with social media influencers. That was actually before social media influencing was social media influencing.
Right.
It was just kind of like, oh, wow, this person has a lot of followers. They didn't really call her or him an influencer. They just said, wow, this person has a lot of people following him. He must have something to say. She must have something to say. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long-winded answer to that.
Nah, dude, that's all good shit right there. A lot of good nuggets in there for sure. And then when you talk about social influencing, when you first collaborated with folks, I'm assuming you just kind of gave them art. You said, "Hey, give me a
Yes.
shout out on social media,
Yep.
whatever."
Yep.
Did that go down in the DM? How'd that go?
That goes down to the DM, man. And when I very first started, you're talking about year one, 3 months in, 6 months in, trying to understand, what it was going to take. Quickly, I realized, first and foremost, you gotta believe in your product. You gotta, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It can be anything. In my case, it's art. You gotta believe in it. And so I would DM in the very beginning. I was DMing 10 to 20 people a day, and I did that for several months. It was one of those things where it was a copy and paste. I took some time one night. I wrote out a script. Hey, my name's EJ Nieves, aka Ness. This is my story. I know that you have a lot of followers. I don't have any money for you. The only thing that I have for you is artwork. You could take a look at my available pieces online, pick yourself out one. I'll ship it out for free. The only thing I ask is that you shout me out. And I did that, man. I did that for a couple months, every day, 10 to 20 DMs, through hashtagging, art, dope art, comic book. In the very beginning, my artistry took the form of pop culture, anime, and comic book art. So those hashtags were very important to me. I would hashtag, I would look for, influencers at the time, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100,000 followers knowing that if I can
Well,
get a
and
piece of my artwork in their hand, then they would
yeah.
shout it out and I'd get them a free piece.
Well, and it's kind of like it was good timing too, right? Because I mean, that's when like comic book movies really started popping. The
Yep.
comic book culture, and we talked about this last time you were on the show, but that comic book culture was not a thing. I mean, it was not mainstream. You know, like
No.
you would, if you go to a comic book shop or if you ordered something online, like you didn't post about it or tell your friends. Like you kept that shit.
No.
But now it's
Yeah,
like, you know,
no.
if you don't see the new Batman, like you're a loser. Like that's how
Oh, I know,
it's
man. It's
developed.
crazy. And I love having that particular conversation because it truly has changed. And even for me, man, like I was a super nerd. Okay, so you're talking Magic the Gathering. I didn't get into Pokemon. Um, I love the aesthetic of Magic the Gathering. You know, real gritty and
Yeah.
orcs and whatever and magic and
Imagination.
sorcery.
That was the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was into Magic the Gathering. I was into tabletop gaming. So Warhammer 40K.
Oh
I
yeah.
was into that. I just didn't, I was a kid, so I didn't have
Pogs and
a
shit.
lot of money. So, to be able to buy those little figures, man, you'd have to, in order to get like a nice, sufficient army to actually make some waves, you'd have to drop about $1,500. I was a kid. I didn't have that. So anyway, so I stopped doing that. But, when I was a kid, you didn't really talk about it. If you talked about it, you got beat up.
Yeah,
I know that,
exactly.
of course, that's horrible, and I
Sure.
never condone bullying. I wasn't one doing that to people, but it just sucked that, back when I was a kid, you talked about comic books, you talked about Batman, you talked about Pokemon, girls wouldn't like you and boys
Hmm.
would be like, what are you, you're a geek. And it was
Yeah.
weird. That's not like that at all now, but
Yeah, it is crazy, right? Because I mean, we do that a lot as a culture, where we one thing is acceptable, and
yep.
then somehow, whether it's generationally, where it changes, or it's movies make it cool, or a couple influencers make it cool. Something happens in our culture where we gravitate in an opposite way. It obviously happens a lot with language, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of words that you can't say now that you could say 20 years ago. There's things you could wear during certain times that, now you can't. And then of course, comic books and all that stuff to where, yeah, back then you're right. Girls didn't really talk to you, but now you go to a high school or even, middle school or something like that. And there's girls, like hot chicks that are geeks. And you're like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean hot because, I'm married, I'm 36, I'm not trying to be a creep, but I'm just saying, if you're a guy out there, even if you're a girl, you can't admit that something's in the water, because I drive past middle schools and I'm like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Something's happened to where maybe it was a combination of like the geek culture got popular, and then,
Yep.
everyone's on social media and they're talking about makeup tutorials and the Kardashians blowing things up. And, maybe it comes down to a combination of like women want to appeal more towards all men, but they also want
Yeah.
to look good in the process. And, I think just women and men in particular are growing up wanting to maybe take care of themselves a little bit more, be attracted to the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you're into. But
Yeah.
maybe that's all part of it. And it's all combined, but it's just interesting how it all kind of happened within like 20 years.
I know.
Like it's not like it was
Yeah.
a slow like thing where we're grandparents and we're telling back in the day, you remember when comic books were, like it was 20 years ago. It was not that long ago.
No, not at all. And I've been doing comic conventions for about 10 years now. I mean, you figure I've been doing it. Yeah, I've been doing it as long as Ness has been Ness since I've been starting comic book conventions. And I started a decade ago. And I will tell you that even a decade ago, you didn't really see a lot of, which this is crazy to even talk about. You didn't really see a lot of cosplayers because even 10 years ago, the cosplayers were looked upon as like the nerds of the comic culture. Even though comic culture was becoming popular, you would look at somebody dressed up as Wonder Woman or Batman, and then you'd be like, bro, like you're taking it too far.
That's
Like
right.
the movie's cool, but you're
But
taking it too far. And now, whether you're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. The concept of cosplaying now has bled into modeling It's bled into, I mean, pop culture, and it really, that in itself is actually a very powerful conversation in regards to um, over sexualizing things and pop culture, and how something can become popular that wasn't popular. It's
Yeah.
a very powerful conversation because now, you know, you have guys and girls that are out there, taking how they feel a character should look like, and they, they're putting it out into the mainstream however they feel they want to do it. And
Yeah.
it's in 10 years time, I have personally seen it go from, whoa, you're taking it too far, to a girl or a guy, you know, dressing up as a character and being able to accumulate 500,000 followers on social media because
They're
of
that
how they
character.
represent that character. It's crazy. It's
It,
crazy.
it is wild. And it's even more interesting because here's what's even more annoying is obviously no one saw this coming, but it's so weird that you look at where we're at now with society, culture, social media in particular, and what you're able to do on your own to make a living. And whether that's making
Yep.
six figures or making just enough to pay the bills, I think we could both agree that as long as you do what you love, that's what's important.
Yep.
And it's amazing now that that is more true than I think it ever has been in the history of humanity. You
Yeah.
know, back in the day, yeah, when we grew up, they're like, oh, you could do whatever you want, you know, the American dream, be what you want to be. That wasn't really true.
Yep.
You know, you could be what you wanted to be, but it might not pay the bills.
Yep.
And paying the bills, whether you're materialistic or not, is irrelevant. You got to pay the bills to live, right? It's like oxygen.
Yep.
You need money. That whole, like, you know, you're only going to be happy if, you know, if you only have money. It's kind of true, because if you're
Yep.
broke and you can't pay the bills and your family's in disarray, and, you know, you're going to have some problems.
Yeah.
So I think money is the key. And now more than ever, we as, you know, humans have the ability to make as much money as we can based off what we like to do, because thank goodness, because of social media, you can, you know, put out your creativity. And if you have value that people like, you can make a good living.
Yeah.
And it's a weird time because it's now true. Now it's actually factual, where you don't have to go to college if you don't want to. You don't have to study business administration for 4 years and
Yep.
listen through calculus speeches. You can just go on TikTok and be a cosplayer
Yep.
and put your own spin on it, and you might get some sponsorships. And, you know, who knows? Is that job title going to be around for 5 years? Probably not. But you're doing what you love to do, and you're getting paid for it, and that's the key.
Yeah, I think now I think the biggest piece of the puzzle that's being missed is financial literacy. Because okay,
Mm.
cool, you can make all well. There's a couple. I'll say this: financial literacy and longevity. Anybody right now that's funny or witty or artistically inclined, you can come up with something, and it could pop for a little bit. You can get your 50,000, you can get your 500,000, whatever it looks like, right? You can get that. But at the end of the day, when you get that sponsorship, when you get that first bag, if you will, that first bag of cash, when you get that first pop, I always wonder what they do with it. Are they
Mm.
financially literate enough to take that sponsorship and do what they got to do with it to let it stretch? Are they going to take that bag and make it stretch, or are they gonna squander it? And I think
Yep.
that's what we're kind of dealing with now. Is that just like back in the 90s, right, and even the 80s, you had these one-hit wonders. I think what we're also seeing now is this influx of one-hit wonder influencership, if you will. We saw it in the music industry. Somebody comes out with an amazing song, it hits number one on the charts. Next thing you know, you never hear from them again.
Right.
And I think what that is creating, it's creating this almost like very weird thing where people want to be famous, but they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And because so many people are making it look like it's obtainable, you are, Joe Blow from, I don't know, the Midwest and some farm, right? or you're a Joe Blow from Ocala, Florida, me or whatever, and you are artistically inclined, you can sing, you can do whatever, and the next thing you know, in 6 months' time, you get blue checked,
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok. You think you made it, but the reality is you didn't make it. It was all about the clout. That blue check only signifies that you were hot for a season. You
That's right.
know, what are you going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So I think we are in a dire straits kind of season of life in our society where everybody wants to be famous, but people in general, as a whole, I don't think a lot of people have the grit and the tenacity and the forward progressive nature within their soul and their heart of hearts for the longevity that it takes to consistently pop,
That's
to
right.
consistently be famous, if you will, or to consistently be relevant. And
And
that's dangerous for
yeah.
people.
And you know what a lot of that is too, and I think you're 100% right. A lot of that is not necessarily the people themselves, because again, the problem is, where all this stuff is happening so quick. I mean, Facebook came out 20 years ago.
I know, crazy.
Instagram came out maybe 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
That's when Facebook bought them, or Meta. I gotta get back to saying that.
I,
But Meta ended up buying Instagram. But it's happening right now. Like, if you made a lot of money as an influencer on Instagram, you're making less money now because Instagram is not as successful as it was 5 years ago from a sponsorship standpoint, right? Because people
Yep.
are gravitating more towards TikTok. And then in 5 years, TikTok is probably going to be irrelevant and something new will come out. So it's happening as we speak. And the people that are now starting to see Instagram plop a little bit, and that's how you made your money, I think you nailed it right on the head, is they don't have the literacy to kind of figure out what to do with what
Yeah.
they made. And
Yep.
a lot of that also has to do, laterally to that, has to do with our ability to want new things.
Yep.
We want the new iPhone. We want the new house. We want the new this, the new that. All the influencers out there, like the Kardashians of the world, and you look at all these folks that I want the new makeup line, I want the new Coach bag, like, I want all this new stuff, and you pair that with irresponsibility to save money,
Yep.
we're gonna have a problem. And
Yeah.
then you top off the fact of, if you are making money only solely based off influencing, and Instagram turns into like a Snapchat,
Yep.
now you're screwed. Now you don't have a paycheck coming in. And we have to get to the point, and this is one thing why I invested into real estate, is you have to get to the point where it's a short-term sacrifice for long-term laziness,
Yeah.
where you have to really work hard to make as much money as you can and then stack that money away, pretend like it doesn't exist. And almost like I trained myself a long time ago when I bought my first property, is train myself that the government told me, hey, Tony, you're going from paying 7% tax to 14% tax. So the whole 10% to your paycheck and put that in saving is very accurate. But I hate to say savings. I put it in an account where I don't have a debit card or anything linked up to it. And I can't even, I would have to physically go into the bank to pull money. And
Yeah.
that's where I put a lot of my quote unquote savings. I don't put it in a checking account and savings linked, because then you could do the whole transfer bullshit where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, let me put a little bit of money in checkings from, like, I put in a Wells Fargo account that I haven't even like walked into. And the reason
Yeah.
I do that is because I know eventually something's going to happen to where I'm going to want those savings. And I want it literally for a rainy day. But the reason I say put 14% away instead of that 7% taxes, what if the government tomorrow tells us, we know you paid X amount of dollars for taxes, and we're going to have to double that this year. Now you're going to pay
Yeah.
20% in taxes. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to have to
Yeah.
figure out a way to pay it. Like, your job's not going to give you a raise.
Yeah.
So really, you could afford to save a little bit more money, to not spend as much money, but we're just caught in that habit of, I want this, and that's where the irresponsibility comes in, I think.
So we're putting all this in a pot, okay? So everything you just shared, then you take, the ebb and flow and the fall and rise of an influencer, and our society being the way you just shared, that we always want the new thing. We always want to be up with the Joneses. We always want to make sure that we are that we look good when we're out and about, and however
right.
that looks like, whether it's clothing, newest technology, newest headphones, whatever, you know, when that fall comes, because not every influencer is going to make it. I need to, I'm sure there's research out there at this point that shows the probability of somebody, actually making a sustainable living
Yep.
for 10 to 25 years. Let's just put it that way. Maybe it might take another 10 years to get this kind of research. But what I'm trying to get at is that everything you just shared financially, mixed with the emotional aspect of many people not being able to handle, well, I was an influencer. I had a makeup, like I was sponsored by a makeup line. They found somebody that was prettier. They found somebody that was taller. If it's a guy, they found somebody that was more handsome. They found somebody that had, an 8-pack instead of a 6-pack, whatever. And then you're back to an accountant job. You're back to being the school teacher. You're back to being the barista at Starbucks. And then the mental state that comes with of being like, I can't handle this. I was in the limelight and now I'm back to serving, white chocolate mochas, like I can't handle that. And I think you put all that together and we're living in a very dangerous time. And I don't think that we're really talking about it. Like as a society, we're not talking about it whatsoever.
No,
And
very dangerous.
my prayer is that in the midst of all of this craziness, somehow, some way, we are pulling empathy into this. We're pulling grace into this. We're pulling love into this. Because I hate to put it this way, I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. We're going to get to a point where a lot of us that are in our 20s and 30s, we're going to be 50, 60, 70 years old in the deepest depressions of our life because we sacrificed everything to make it. We don't have a family. We don't have children. We don't have a house. We don't have anything to show for this sacrifice that the media showed us we can obtain. But like, we sacrificed 15 years of our life for what?
Yeah.
And I don't think that we're going to see the fruition of this until people that are our age are in our 60s and 70s. It's going to be crazy, bro. And
Yeah.
I'm praying that by then, people kind of have a come into Jesus moment and they say, man, like, I get it. That looked good. Everything that glitters isn't gold. Maybe I don't need to be famous. Maybe I don't need to be the prettiest girl in the room. Maybe I don't need to be the most handsome guy at the beach. Maybe it is that we're just supposed to live this life to love one another, to find that person that makes us feel amazing. We might raise some kids or we might raise some dogs or whatever, and I'm happy. And I think that contentment as a society, we need to be talking more about contentment and love more than ever, man, because a lot of us we're just trying to make it, bro. And a lot of us are, I mean, I'm guilty. I'm 38, I'm 37, gonna be 38 years old. I'm still single, no kids, never married. And there's a lot of people like me. And it's like, man, like I would hate to be in my 50s or 60s in this same position because I made the decision to just run towards fortune, run towards being known worldwide,
That's right.
to just, fall on my face. And I'm talking for me and I'm talking for anybody else, right? And in this position, I'm speaking candidly and in a raw state right now, because as I'm talking with you, I'm realizing that that's the plight of a lot of us, man. And I'm praying for all of us we got to figure it out sooner than later, man, because we're only getting older. We're not getting younger.
Bro. And that's so true what you said too about literally everything. Because it is kind of scary, the fact that we're not thinking so far ahead and we're not having the conversation enough about longevity. And I think a lot, I don't know if that's, I hate to blame social media so much because it's given us so many things. I think a lot of it has to do with the educational system. If you look at the educational system, it's been the same for decades. It hasn't changed. The subject matter hasn't changed. Aside from colleges occasionally and universities that might implement a little bit of AI technology or, digital marketing, things like that. But really, what are we teaching our kids from preschool all the way to high school and college? And I don't know about you, but I made the most money in my life with real estate. And I wasn't able to do that based off what I learned in school.
Yeah.
The most money I've made in a job is based off the experience I learned from other jobs.
Wow.
I didn't get a degree. So
Yeah.
it makes me kind of curious and a little terrified that I'm not the only one by any means. In fact, I would say the vast majority of humans are learning more of their experience from real life circumstances versus what they learn between four walls at a school. And I think that's a problem. I think it's a problem because you and I pay our taxes based off the school.
Yeah.
And worse than that, I don't know if you know this, but schools themselves get a better budget based off real estate around that county.
Wow.
Meaning, if you're in a real estate, or excuse me, if you're in a county that has, higher comps in the area, so where the housing market, let's say it's $500,000 for your house, obviously the schools in that county are going to have a bigger budget. Teachers are going to have a bigger budget versus you go to poorer communities where houses are caged up and they're going for $50, $70, $100,000 for those houses. Those are poorer communities. So the counties, because they're not getting a lot of money from the taxpayer in those poor communities, the schools suffer because it's free education, which means the teachers there have to pay for their own supplies. So that's a problem because if you live in a poor community, it's not your fault. You were raised there, you're born there, you're born in that poor community. Not only are you born in that poor community, now you're going to the shittiest school in the community, in the county, maybe even in the city. Then you raise up into every single school that's shitty. You're not getting a good education, and you're surrounded by just bad environments. So that's a bad hand. Like you're at a blackjack table and you got a really bad hand. Now, how do you get out of that? Well, you think you get out of that based off of the education, right? But if you're getting a poor education, then how are you going to save money down the road? How are you going to start a family? How are you going to have a 401k? How are you going to start a business and be successful? So it's kind of terrifying, man, that we've been doing this little show and dance for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it almost seems kind of obvious, right? Like if you fix the poor areas, then the school's going to be better. Now we can invest more money into schools. Yes. Once we have more money into schools, now everyone else is going to be raised as better humans.
Yes.
And the country is going to survive. Like it's going to thrive. It's kind of crazy how we get set up for failure essentially from the get in a lot of places.
And I believe that's why I don't want to put. This is definitely a tough convo. A good one. It's a good one. It's a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's one that has a lot of streams and rivers, right? This conversation can go in a lot of different directions. I will say this, though. That's why the conversations that we're having right now, that's why it's so important for us to have it. That's why this is the other side, right? This is the bright side of the moon, if you will, for social media. This is where, these conversations, however it needs to happen, whether we find sponsors or it just hits an algorithm that just sets on fire, conversations like this need to be placed in the forefront. And not just because it's Tony or EJ, it's because these two human beings are having this discussion,
right?
And other human beings need to be in this digital room, if you will, whether people are commenting on YouTube, whether this conversation, is put on Facebook and the comment threads are going crazy. This is the bright side of the moon for social media. This is the side that, I'm just going to be honest, like whether it's the girls and the guys that are half naked or whatever's happening on that side, like the crazy video, the cat videos and just all the stuff that's on the other side of the moon, right? Which I'm not judging any of that, but what I'm saying is through all of that, though, there has to be this sense that there's people out here that are saying very profound things that, quite frankly, could possibly be affecting us or our children.
Yeah.
especially our children. You know, and there's people right now watching this, and they may be in those communities, or they may have a friend that their child is are in those communities. That's what I'm talking about. We about earlier. We need to have empathy.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some sense of love and compassion and empathy to say, fine, I am not in that situation. I live in a $379,000 home, okay, and my kid goes to an A+ school, and you know they're on the soccer team, and in the summer they do travel league and all that great
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I am not judging any of that, but what I'm saying is, okay, you're a
Be
family might be
aware.
in that position that has extra.
Yeah.
How can I help out just a little bit, right? And
That's right.
I'm just gonna say it, you know, I'm not trying to get political. You know, maybe some people might think, oh, you're going into socialism. That's not, I'm not going in that direction. What I'm saying is that as a society, we should be showing love to one another. And sometimes love does look like building a bridge for
Yeah.
those that might not be successful, to help build that bridge. I'm not saying to just dump money in a family household. I'm saying dump money in the bridge,
That's right.
dump money in the program, dump money to teach people how to fish. Just don't give somebody a fish, teach them
Right.
how to fish.
And, you know, not only that, but socialism, again, this is a word that any word really, this is where I go back to, like, we just change words.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to get canceled, so I won't mention a few
Yeah.
words, but there's a words that you just can't say anymore. Right. And
Yeah.
there's also words that, even though we invented all the words, and this word socialism and all that, where let's just dump money and help people that are not privileged, and let's just do that.
Yeah.
By the way, if you don't want to do that, you're doing that already by paying taxes. That's what you're doing. You're dumping money into something that you don't even know where it goes to. A lot of it's going to schools. A lot of it's going to fix the roads and blah, blah, blah bullshit. But also a lot of it is going to pay, you know, dumbasses in Washington that aren't really doing anything. And I would say that you got to think to yourself, the amount of money that we do spend and what you do on a daily basis and what you're given and the privilege you're given, isn't the whole idea of this crazy world to expand our civilization and help the human race, like down the line 100 years from now? Because imagine if our ancestors way back in the day were carrying, you know, our great and they got they're cavemen and women, and the cave women is getting dragged by the fucking hair, and the little babies outrunning a saber-toothed tiger, and all that's happening. And eventually that caveman thought to himself, I cannot wait until the day to where I could just sit in 4 rooms and not do anything and not be terrified of saber-toothed tigers. And the only way that happened was him and his tribe got together and decided they wanted a better human race. They wanted a better future for themselves. They didn't think to themselves, well, let's just go ahead and do this for today. No, they thought, I want a better future for my family.
Yeah.
That's always been our driving force. Evolution's taught us that, right? And why aren't we thinking that now? Why do we not think, if we help out the county that's right next to us that's doing shitty, or if we help out the other person on the other side of the phone on social media, and we collaborate with each other and we help each other, we're all going to be better. And if we're all better, then you're not going to be scared to go to the bad side of the tracks anymore. Because there's not going to be a bad side of the tracks. It's all going to be good. Like, there's no downfall to it. Like, if we're playing a football game and this is the Super Bowl, and it's human being versus human being, this is a game where you want to tie. Like, you know, we want to work together. We don't want to compete against each other. And sometimes it feels like we're competing a lot. And it's so crazy because you're trying to do your own thing and you're trying to be positive because everyone's got their own shit going on. And sometimes it's hard to get motivated to be empathetic and be motivating with other people. But I think the more you work on it and the more you could strive to be better and to treat other people better and to help each other grow, I don't ever think there's a downfall. I don't think there's ever been a story where I can think of to where, you know, you help a old woman across the street and you get hit by the truck. I don't know if there's ever been a story like that, like metaphorically speaking, right? I
Yeah,
just
no, for sure.
I just don't know if that's the case. I think there's always been a positive ROI in helping people.
Yeah, and that's, I think we talked about this the first time I was on the show because it might have been fresher in the atmosphere when our boy Ben Mandum, he shot a video of mine called "Build Bridges Not Kingdoms,"
That's right.
and that's exactly what "Build Bridges Not Kingdoms" is about. What you were sharing in regards to you know helping others so that there's no bad side of the tracks. It's just we're at a place now where we first and foremost have to take responsibility for ourselves. That's for sure. We have to take responsibility for our family, our household, make sure that we are good. And then after that, I do think that there's a part of humanity that after you've taken some time and you've been a good steward and you're continuing being a good steward of your household and your family, you know, open the door and look down your street a little bit. Open your door and maybe go for a walk and pay attention to your neighbors and just
That's
see
right.
how they're doing. And metaphorically speaking, I think that we all need to open the door when we're ready, because we should. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm gonna charge everybody, encourage everybody. If you're not ready, if you're not being a good steward of your life, get on it. like
Just do
like
it.
we have a responsibility to
Yeah.
be the best human beings that we can be. So first and foremost, get on that, right? Let's do that in love and compassion. And then once you're ready, open that door. Go for a walk. Metaphorically speaking, go for a walk in your community and see where you can help. How can
That's
you
right.
help? Because all of us have different passions, man. I don't want to sit here and start preaching and stuff, but like we were created with purpose. We were created with a gift. Tony, you have passions and desires that are not inside of me. I have passions and desires that are not inside of you. That's a
That's right.
great thing. That means that we are two different people that are living this life, and you're going to be able to affect change. I'm going to be able to affect change, both of us for the better. And then guess what? We collaborate when we're on a platform like this.
That's right.
And everybody has their platforms to collaborate. I think that's where we're at. I
Yeah.
think in the year 2022, yes, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, all that stuff. We're whatever. Hey, we we should be at a place now where we look around and we say, how can I help my fellow man? How?
That's right.
How? You know?
There's so many ways to do it too. And
Yes.
and I got to tell you too, I mean, no true words have been said because collaborating is not just huge for you and I personally, but the some of the best life experience that I've had is collaborating with other folks and
Yeah.
learning different aspects of things. And I think that's more valuable than any college education I can get because that's real life. That's human beings.
Amen.
The ability to interact with people and to learn from each other is, I've learned so many different things from different people that I would never even think that I want to learn. But, you have these
Yeah.
type of conversations and you're just like, well, now I'm passionate about this. Like, if you ever sit back in a room and think to yourself, man, I don't know what to do with my life, an easy practice,
Yeah.
we'll let that pass.
Yeah.
But if you ever if you don't know what to do with your life, the best way to kind of figure out your meaning in life is to talk to other people, in my opinion,
Yes.
or self-reflect. But sometimes self-reflecting can be challenging if you don't have the mental capacity. But the best
Yes.
way I think is to talk with people and to figure out pros and cons and, get with people that are good at something and get with people that suck at stuff. Because I
Yeah.
think by talking to a lot of people, you're going to learn a lot of different things that you're not and that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
it is kind of funky though that content itself has all these positives and a lot of pros, but then there's
Yeah.
also, there's some cons too, right? Because you see cancel culture that's going crazy. And I want to touch base a little bit on this. I don't know how your feelings on it, but it's just kind of so interesting to me that we spend so much energy as a society because all the things that we talked about, I think are pretty valuable, but then we could do a lot more of that as humans, but instead
Yeah.
some of us decide that we want to attack other people for whatever reason. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never been the person that, even though I've never been called a derogatory name because I'm, I guess I'm fortunate, white privilege, I suppose, that no one's really called me aside from short. I'm not offended by anything, but even if I was, I just wasn't the person that I'm just not offended. And I don't know if that's because I'm stronger. I don't think that's the case. I just think I learned a long time ago that whatever you say to me doesn't affect my life.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what you do, even if you're my wife or my spouse.
Yeah.
If you don't want me to do this podcast, wife, and she's behind me, that's kind of on her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what I want to do, and hopefully she's supportive enough to let me do it, right? And vice versa. If she wants to do something, I'm not going to tell her not to do her passion. So the point there, though, is why do we think that we can attack people? If, like Louis C.K. is a good example, because there was a small group of people, comedian Louis C.K., that you thought it was wrong that he decided to masturbate onto people. People didn't like that, and rightfully so. He probably shouldn't do that. However, he asked for permission. Someone said, yes, go ahead. He did it. And then years later, he got reamed out for it. And now I don't get a chance to see Louis C.K. do stand-up anymore. Yeah. So I'm a little, my ass hurts a little bit because I'm like, what's going on? Like, just because that person didn't affect you, didn't commit a crime, but there was a small group of people that got together and said, you know what? We should just write a bunch of articles and bash Louis C.K. until he gets canceled. It's happening with Joe Rogan right now, right? It's happening with so many other influencers and actors and actresses. And it's just so weird that if there was no media, we wouldn't be in this situation because you wouldn't know this is going on. And if something happens in my life that I didn't like, or something happens to my wife that I didn't like, we would deal with it ourselves.
Yes.
But because these poor folks are under the radar all the time, now their lives get ruined. And it's kind of crazy because why isn't the news talking more about what we're talking about? Why aren't they talking about the school system being shitty and the crime in the world and cops not getting paid enough and cops not getting trained enough, and there being shitty cops, there being good cops, there being shitty people, bad people, criminals, non-criminals. Like, that's the type of shit I want to hear from the news. I don't need to know what the hell's going on with Kanye West, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts about that?
Man, they're all good topics, and I actually, it's funny because so I posted on Facebook, end cancel culture.
I saw
and then
that.
somebody
That's why I
was
wanted
like,
to
well,
talk about it today.
then, somebody commented, well, isn't that cancel culture? Okay, true, touche. But I think, to me, cancel culture as a Goliath, if you will, is something that I do not see any positive, loving, empathetic ROI, return on investment from canceling anybody. So with that being said, okay, it might be like an oxymoron or hypocritical, I don't know, however you want to put it, to end the cancel culture because it's technically canceling cancel culture.
Right.
But to me, the concept of cancel culture should most certainly be canceled.
True.
Because at the end of it, somebody's hurting. Yes, I can see where somebody can make the point that they're canceling a criminal or they're canceling. I get that. So I want to make sure that I say that as well. But what I'm saying is that for me, I'm just going to put myself on Front Street. We should be loving everybody. Okay. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying for the criminal to run free. I'm not saying for the murderer to run free. I'm not talking about anybody running free that needs to be in trouble. What I'm saying is, even if they are in trouble, these people should still be loved in a way that's like, hey, like, you did wrong, man. Yes, you're behind bars or whatever your consequence is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, in society, my belief system, my foundational core is that we should be loving everybody and understanding everybody's heart. Again,
Right.
I'm not saying that you love somebody to allow them to run rampant in a toxic environment in your life or to create toxic parameters and things in your life and just have a field day. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as a society, the energy that we expound, that has been expounded on canceling people, what if we expounded the same kind of energy in trying to understand people, trying
Yeah.
to love people, trying to see, okay, well, where did that come from? Or, man, that was 10 years ago. Is EJ the same person from 10 years ago,
Of course.
or did he
Yeah.
change? And you know, I remember, you know, things with James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy, you know,
Oh
tweets
yeah.
that came back from like 10 years ago.
Well, look
Okay,
at
like
like Kevin
again,
Hart couldn't host the Oscars because of that
exactly.
tweet he sent out so
Kevin
long ago.
Hart, man. And so again, we are two people sharing our thoughts on this, and there could be easily another two people in this world of people that'll be like, well, EJ and Tony are wrong. Okay, cool. If you
Maybe.
think that we're wrong, let's have a conversation then.
Yeah. Let's
Let
talk about it.
let's have a good conversation, not a, you know, not a screaming. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to yell.
Not a
I'm not
Facebook conversation either.
exactly like let's have a for real conversation.
Yeah.
Facts. Let's, you know. So yeah, man. It's I don't believe in it. I wish that our society spent the energy that we're spending to end people, cancel people, um, understanding it, and then also it's easy for anybody, a 12-year-old to a 47-year-old, to make a meme and put it on social media
Mm-hmm.
and add fuel to the fire. You know, like it's easy to do that. I've been guilty of that at times with certain things, maybe not cancel culture, but other things. Like, I get it, it's human nature, but I just think as a whole, I just wish that we showed more empathy, man. I just wish we
I
did.
know. Yeah, it's shitty. I mean, there's even you know, Ricky Gervais has a great bit about. Do you know who that is? Ricky Gervais.
No.
He's the comedian that started The Office in the UK.
Okay.
He's got a show called
Okay.
The Afterlife on Netflix.
Okay.
Really funny stand-up comedian. But yeah, you should check him out. But Ricky Gervais, he has this great stand-up special called Humanity, and it's on Netflix. Check it out. But in that, I believe is the special. I'm paraphrasing, of course, and I don't mean to butcher the bit. But he pretty much says cancel culture is like when you send out a mean tweet and, you know, I send out a tweet and John doesn't like it. And he responds back, that's bullshit. I can't believe you're saying that. You should be removed from Twitter. That's exactly like someone hanging up a poster that says guitar lessons, call Tony, and then someone walking by saying guitar lessons, that's stupid, you shouldn't do that, and rips it off the corkboard. That's exactly what cancel culture is, because you're trying to cancel somebody that's saying something to a huge population of people. Some people are going to hate it, some people are going to like it. You shouldn't really cancel people because of that, because you don't agree with certain views or what they say or didn't say, because it's irrelevant. Again, it's not affecting your day-to-day life. We need to stop being offended by what other people are saying and just focus on ourselves. And I think everything else will happen. I love what you said I love what you said about the community, because I've always believed strongly that you're never going to fix the world, but you could fix your block. And if you just fix your block and focus on your community, your neighbors, and your circle of friends, I think everything will be fine. And if everybody did that, that block will turn into the world. But we all have to be on the same page.
That. Yeah.
You could take that. You could steal that. It's all yours.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. I'll share one last thing on cancel culture, because you brought up a great point when you were talking about the ripping down of the guitar lessons flyer. I think too what it is, because what I immediately go to is somebody right now on my Facebook page could try to cancel me because I talk about God and I talk about Jesus a lot and my relationship with him. And my thought to that would be, okay, this is my Facebook page. When you enter my page, Well, and even on Facebook, you have the ability to unfollow. You don't need to not unfriend.
Right.
You can unfollow. So there's actually a lot of people that I have unfollowed, which is fine, whatever. I'm not going to unfriend you, but hey,
I don't want to
I'm
see
not
your
going to
shit.
cancel you either. I'm not going to cancel you. We're still Facebook friends. It's just whatever. So what I'm saying is, it's like, it's interesting how somebody will get offended or could get offended by my page, but that's my page. So you essentially are saying, I am not, I am in the privacy of my house. I am in the privacy of my piece of technology. I am on your page. So because I feel a connection to my piece of technology, which I feel is like 100% mine, and you are on my piece of technology, I don't want to see you, so I'm going to cancel you. That's crazy because
Makes no
that
sense.
makes absolutely no sense. It's like a, a skewing of ownership. People are like, you you are a factor of my life.
That's right.
And then so what I see is that cancel culture is a group of people saying, you are a factor of our group that needs to be canceled.
That's right.
That's crazy.
That's
That's
madness.
crazy to me. It's madness. So
It,
yeah, I don't believe in it.
yeah, it's insane, and it's even more crazy that people spend time doing that when they could spend time making the world a better place. Like, there's so many people out there that, I don't think, and who am I to tell you how to spend your time? I'm just saying it's common sense to figure out how we should be spending our time, right? Like,
I know.
you probably shouldn't be spending your time trolling, making fun of people. I mean, what's the difference between that person and a bully at middle
I
school,
know.
right? There's no difference between the same person that is trying to cancel you on social media. That's the same person that made fun of me for liking Batman in middle school. Like, that's who that person
And see,
is.
and we literally have come full circle in this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And I was gonna
It's
say,
like we
because
planned that.
man, I hate to run, but I gotta go, man.
That's right.
It's
No.
you right. I mean, I don't want this to be wrapped up because I know we had a whole bunch of other stuff we were gonna, oh man, talk about NFTs and all this kind of
Well,
stuff.
dude,
And I'm
I
sorry that I
do.
gotta run.
No, you're fine. I know you're busy. So I do want to, I'll text you later about this, but NFTs, I'm going to start personally getting into them a little bit more. And
Okay.
I'd be curious on your thoughts on that, as well as I was even thinking about hosting a TED Talk and getting a group of people together and talking about exactly what we're talking about, but have speakers like yourself, have speakers talking about real estate and just kind of put like a
Yeah.
conference together. And I know you've done a TED Talk before, so
Yes.
I want to pick your brain on that too. So maybe we'll do a separate convo on that. But
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of put a shameless plug out there, a good friend of mine, one of my aces, Daniel Gray, and myself, we own a NFT brokerage firm called Adept. So we are very excited about that. And yeah, let's continue talking about that because
Ooh.
NFTs is definitely the next manifestation of Ness creations. So yeah, man, hit me up. We'll talk again.
I love it. And quick shout out for people that are just listening. Where can they find you on social media, your website, all that jazz?
Man, you can find me at www.official, N as in Nancy, EHS as in super.com. That's official Ness. And that's everything across the board. That's my TikTok. That's my Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter, but if you want to follow me, I might jump on there every now and then. So yeah, check me out, official Ness.
Right on, ladies and gentlemen. EJ, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for making this happen. I know it was a challenge today, but I appreciate you, bro, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, bro. Appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Later.